you need to be looking at building a team for the right reasons. You're not doing it to escape work. And I think that's a big misconception. I would get stopped at award events and different things and have individual agents come up to me and go, your team is so great. I want to get to where you are. I want to have a team and not work. And, frankly, I work more now, or at least as much as I did in 2007. It's just different. You're trading tasks, let's say daily tasks, for responsibility.
All right, everybody, welcome to this episode of Real Estate Strategies with Remax Hallmark. We have a fantastic episode today where we have two fine gentlemen who are going to share the secrets to building and growing a top producing real estate team. The Pilon Group, led by Jason Pilon, who's the team's founder and current broker of record, has started the Pilon Group in Ottawa in 2007. Sab Taylor, who we have here with us as well, is a general manager who joined and was instrumental in building the team. Today, we're going to be learning how these two gentlemen built and grew one of Ottawa's top real estate teams, the secret behind their success, and a bit about how they got into real estate as well. Jason, Sab, welcome to Real Estate Strategies.
Thanks for having us.
Thank you for having us, Johnder.
Our pleasure. So let's start with the origin story. So Jason, I read a little bit about you, and before you got into, you've always been in real estate. You've been investing in real estate and doing a lot of things in the real estate industry. Before that, you were in the internet and technology field. So can you share your story about how you transitioned from where you started in internet and technology, how you discovered a career and built a business in real estate, and then how the Pilon team started?
Sure. Well, look, it came from, my previous business, like you mentioned, online sales, and that was back in the 90s. And that was a 10, 12-year career. And as you mentioned, I was buying real estate, throughout those years, just trying to build wealth and, really enjoyed that part of it. Really always was a fan of real estate. Anywhere I went, I was picking up books and taking a look at the market locally to see what was out there. So it was a natural transition. There was just far more interest in that than there was in my previous business. So I got licensed, still had my previous business, and there was probably about a year and a half, 2-year transition from one to the other of jumping into the real estate game.
All right. So 2007, you started the business. Were you solo at the time, or did you always have this grand vision that you're going to build a Pilon Group and it's going to be a big team in real estate?
Yeah. So it did evolve. I did have a partner at the time. It was just me and a good friend at the time who had been licensed around the same time as me. So we looked at it as joining forces versus trying to fight over the same sphere of influence that we had built up over the years. And so we did that. The first year, really just, again, your standard solo agent trying to wear many hats, marketing, systems, sales, trying to do everything. And we had a really good first year and realized really at the end needed to implement some organization to what we were doing.
That's amazing. Yeah.
And so that went on for, we built up that team. Sab was part of that team, and we ran that for about 7 years.
And Sab, I read that you were in the transportation industry and you are the general manager. So you take care of basically all the systems, all the business operating procedures, everything that runs the Pilon Group today. So how did you get into real estate? And currently, how does your day-to-day responsibility complement Jason's role? Because both of you have grown the team very successfully. I believe you joined a few years after Jason had started in real estate. So how did that journey look like for you? And how are you contributing to make the team continue to run smoothly today?
So I joined in 2011. I was previously the branch manager for a same-day transportation company. I had 100 drivers, about 30 inside office staff, and Jason and I have known each other for a really long time. We're childhood friends. So we started talking a little bit about, as Jason said before, they were growing the business, and he said, we need someone to help us, and would you consider doing it? So I jumped in, as I said, 2011. Yeah, really, honestly, it's great. Jason and I have an awesome relationship. We work in the same office, so just the two of us. So I guess to answer your question, we sit there and we talk about how we can improve regularly, right? So Jason's a big picture type person, and really my job is execution. So making sure that, we've got this idea, let's go with it. Now, that being said, Jason likes being heavily involved, especially from a marketing perspective, graphical, those types of things. So he likes being involved in that. The rest of it, I just take the ball and I run with it. So we say, what, this process isn't working great. Let's make this small tweak. And then my job is just to go in and make sure that those tweaks are being implemented and that, we're operating as well as we can on a day-to-day basis. And so that's operationally. And then on the other side of it, just being available 24/7, resource for our agents. So both Jason and I are heavily involved. Jason a little bit more than myself, but just making sure that we're there to support them however we can.
Well, you certainly have the perfect formula because I mean you've carried over basically all of your business experience from running the operation that you did and into a fine, well-oiled machine here in the real estate space. And so it looks like you two complement each other in terms of your skills and your talents, and where each of you have your unique abilities. And also looks like I mean this is a team now that has been one of Ottawa's top producing teams. You're almost 20 years into it. And so in terms of growth, let's look at what were some of the biggest challenges you faced. Sab having joined the team in 2011, Jason starting out in real estate in 2007. From that point where you were both early on in building this team, what were some of the challenges that you faced from hiring, your first couple of agents, maybe some admin staff? Can you sort of describe to us like what was your strategy? Were you planning to, bring in more administrative support and then go into hiring, real estate salespeople to build the business? What was sort of the idea when you were starting at that point?
Yeah, I mean, look, it's an interesting one because I think we got to analyze a lot of the teams over those years and see what people were doing. Frankly, it didn't look all that difficult to me to be doing the right thing with respect to the growth of a team. Many teams out there, or supposed teams at that time, years ago, they might have a buyer agent or two. They weren't really providing value to them, and they were really just bringing them on to grab a couple of extra deals. And there really wasn't that structure and cohesiveness or, frankly, business model. I mean, we looked at it as a business model. So early on, some of the difficulties were, taking that leap of faith financially, because when you're hiring anyone, bringing people on, there's no guarantees that anything's gonna work. So obviously, that letting go, obviously, of some of the day-to-day. Everyone thinks when they get licensed, they can put up the sign the best way, they can put the lockbox on the best, and obviously backing away from all of those and really bringing people on that, our first hire was administratively, who had been in the industry for quite a while, who helped us set up a lot of our organization. I mean, I think our first year we did 80 deals and we had most of them in a drawer, and none of them were even submitted or filed anywhere because we really didn't know what we were doing from that perspective.
Right.
So organization, setting up systems, processes, and then taking the gamble, I think those were really the biggest challenges starting.
Yeah, and Sab, do you want to add to that in terms of from your business perspective, what did you do in terms of identifying what the team needed at that point in order for it to be able to scale the way it did up until today?
I think when we looked at it, every year, Jason and I sit down. Really, November, December is clearly a slower time in the real estate space. So that's our time to plan for the next year, right? So that's when we're looking at, okay, do we need to hire someone internally? Do we need more agents? And if we do, how are we going to handle that? So I think if anything over the last few years, what we have done a very good job at is finding the right talent that fits in the space that we want. We're very big on when we hire, we utilize DISC, both internally and from an agent perspective. So for example, from an agent perspective, we have a very clear Jason will contact someone, or if they reach out to us and, he sits down, has a coffee with them. If we like them, then we move them along that line and we'll have them fill out a DISC report, make sure that they fall into the right space that we're looking for. Then I'll meet with them. Then Jason and I will meet with them together. Cause it's funny, we'll meet with people and the comments we get are, wow, it's like taking a really long time to get hired with you guys. And yeah, like, listen, a culture to us is one of the most important things. So we're not just going to hire, Bobby from down the hall or down the street or someone that just got licensed. We're going to make sure that we do our due diligence and make sure that it's someone that, is going to fit our culture. So we really make sure we've learned and we've made mistakes throughout. So that's why our process is pretty Loctite, and we make sure that we follow it every single time when we're making a hire.
Which makes sense because a lot of this is one key distinction for those of you who are, you're an individual realtor looking to start a team for the first time, or you're a team leader, but you're struggling because, the dynamics, the culture isn't quite there. It's easy to just pick up any realtor and say, hey, okay, join my team. I'll give you a couple of leads, do this, do that, and all that sort of thing. But it really looks like you can really distinguish the teams that have put a thought process into the culture, into the hiring practices, into making something that works dynamically. Because right now you have a dozen, you have 12 currently licensed on your team, plus how many administrative roles and other maybe non-licensed members do you have on your team currently?
So we have 3 people in our admin department as well as myself. We have an administration manager. We have a business development person and social media, and then myself as well. I am licensed. I didn't mention that in the beginning, and my business development person is licensed. So that's actually that's an interesting story where she's been with our team for 9 years, and she reached out to Jason 9 years ago. Very successful realtor. So she was just making changes in her life and was looking for something a little bit more stable, a little 9 to 5. Reach out to Jason. And it's funny because when we met with her, we both really liked her. And she said, you know what, guys, I'm only willing to commit to you for 3 months. And last week was her 9-year anniversary with our team. So it's just funny sometimes how things happen at the right time. And it was the right timing for her and it was the right timing for us. You know, hiring talent always wins at the end, right? So.
And it speaks to the team, how they feel about the team and how they feel about the overall goal and the purpose of the team, right? So, Jason, over to you. What we're going to talk about now is systems and processes, because, as you know, I mean, and both of you are licensed real estate professionals. Sometimes in our industry, there seems to be a lack of consistency in terms of how one realtor does business, another realtor does business, and then when you add the team dynamic to it, it's even more important because you've now created a broader scope of going beyond just an individual real estate business, and you're now responsible for several realtors under your care. So, Jason, what systems or processes have been crucial to scaling your team and maintaining the quality service? Again, you're one of the top real estate teams in Ottawa, and you wouldn't have gotten that way without providing optimum service and exemplary service to your clients. So how do you maintain those systems and processes?
Well, I mean, those are always being revised and looked at. I mean, it's really about protecting the client experience and the brand from start to finish so that those are systematized. So, you know, that process is obviously very important. The client journey from start to finish is something that we look at and ensure that it's the same throughout for everyone for that experience. You know, we have standardized listing processes from start to finish. Same thing on the buying side. That'll process checklists for everything from start to finish, not just from the agent standpoint, but from an internal standpoint to make sure that, you know, they're getting of service throughout. They're not feeling like a number, that we're communicating with them after. How are we communicating with them after? What does that look like? So it's a complete process. Those are constantly revising. I mean, any systems we had in place 10, 15 years ago are very different than they are now. The consistency always has to remain. You know, what we expect from the team, from team meetings to one-on-ones to how we approach them, all of that stuff is constantly being, you know, revised as well. But it's all important in ensuring that really at the end of the day that we provide the best level of service that we can to the clients and consistent level of service to the clients as well.
Right. So what we're hearing here, I mean, for those of you listening or watching and taking notes, is that there are processes that are defined. There are checklists. They are continuously refined based on experiences and based on challenges and learning. And so if you're working on starting a team, or if you have a team right now, and this is one of the challenges you face, you've got to look at these processes in terms of something as simple as you mentioned earlier. Some realtors think they can hang a sign better than others, but something as simple as having a consistent process for, you know, when a new inquiry comes in, how do you pick up the phone? What's your communication with them? How do you set up the appointments? Things such as listing presentations, as Jason, you just mentioned. And so every one of these processes, you wouldn't have been, you know, working a team and then building it and growing it for over 20 years without having each of these well defined. So, Sab, going to you in terms of, you know, you're running more of the business side of things in terms of how you operate and you know, all the things that are constantly changing and evolving. There's a lot of challenges in learning, especially in the real estate industry. So from your perspective, in terms of your role of managing the team, I think you got something really important that you're going to be able to share with us. What's one of the, let's say, unexpected challenges you've ever encountered as part of this growing team dynamic? And then how did you go about handling it to the benefit of the team and bringing the team to where it is today?
Honestly, I think that's a good question. I think one of the biggest things I've learned is exactly what you just said, is that everyone learns differently and you can't treat everyone the same. So it's funny, even, you know, a good example of that is the big move from Matrix into Realm. That was new for Ottawa last year. And it was just an absolutely mind-blowing thing for everybody, saying, well, I don't know if I can do this. We've been on this system for 20 years. So it was developing a training system to make sure that everyone was okay and they felt comfortable with it, right? So it was funny, as we went through that process, it was like, oh, well, wait a minute, so-and-so needs a little bit more help in defining their systems and understanding it than maybe someone else does. We've got people on our team who are like, you know what, send it to me. I can figure out, I'm good. And then we have other people where we have to really sit down with them and spend a lot. And that's okay. Everyone learns at different paces, but I think that's really what I've learned is I have to recognize so and so might need a little bit more help and a little bit more work. AI has been obviously absolutely huge, right? So, okay, we have this great tool. All right, guys, how are we going to use it? Right? We're all going to use it a little bit different and making sure that these guys are really at the forefront of everything, that we're doing and that's coming out.
Right. It's fair to say. I mean, you gentlemen are in Ottawa. We're in Toronto as we're recording this, and it's still something that's a constant struggle. And fair to say, I mean, in the past, especially in the past year or two, there's just been so many changes in the real estate industry, and even today, you're hearing a lot of different news. And it's just how certain individual realtors adapt and how teams adapt. And you're one of the teams that have been able to address these challenges well. So this is something now for both of you. Like you're in this journey again, almost 20 years with as far as Pilon Group is concerned, and in real estate, I'm sure before even being in the real estate business as licensed professionals, you've seen the real estate industry grow in terms of your own personal investments, in terms of what it means to you and to your families. So, for both of you, what are the most rewarding aspects of running a real estate team specifically? Like, I know you both have successful real estate careers. You both build good businesses. What's the most rewarding aspects? We'll start with Jason and then we'll go to Sab. What are the most rewarding aspects of running your team?
Sure. I mean, look, I would say number one, quality of life. We're focusing on things on a day-to-day basis that we're good at versus, having to handle and wear all the hats that we had to wear when we were on our own. So I think that's it. Really, as a team lead, it would be taking pride in seeing my agents do extremely well and grow. Those would be probably the two top things. For me, I mean, I think that, we're creating something here that is bigger than every transaction.
Right.
And that also is extremely rewarding. So I think that those would be my big takeaways.
Right. And I'll touch on that, Jason, because it's very interesting that, in real estate, as an individual agent, of course, you can make such a huge impact, on your lifestyle, your wealth, your clients, and everybody you help. But, once you get to the team level, you're now magnifying just the amount of impact you're making, because not only yourself, now it's everybody else that's you're essentially responsible for in terms of helping their business grow. So that's very inspirational. So Sab, how about you? What are some of the things that are most rewarding about your role in the team and then seeing the team grow?
Well, honestly, Jason kind of stole mine. Mine was definitely seeing people grow, both internally and externally. And I don't mean just from a numbers perspective, because listen, numbers are important, GCI and number of deals, but seeing how these people have improved in what they're doing on a day-to-day basis. Honestly, I love it. I was saying last week that, it's the start of a new year and we've got a bunch of them that are in the office and they're just ready to go and it's a new year. And I felt like a proud dad. I'd come in, I'd say, all right, guys, I'm so happy to see you. And what are you working on today? It's just really seeing that growth. Our administration manager, someone that was not involved in real estate 3 years ago, is now going through the process of getting licensed. So again, seeing her grow and just seeing, these guys grow both personally and professionally is, it's really awesome. We're very, I said it earlier, but we're very culture oriented. And I know a lot of people say this, but I do really think it's true with our group that we are a family. We haven't had an agent leave. I don't even know, Jay, maybe you remember, it's been over 5 years since we haven't had an agent with the team. We have people that have been here since day one, and most people are in that 5 to 10 year gap. So people come here, they stay here, they like being here. We just went to Mont Tremblant over the Christmas holidays, and it's not one of those things where I think other company events, people think, you know what, I don't know if I really want to go do that. Everyone just absolutely a lot of spending time together. And I think it's very unique. And I think we've built something that's really awesome.
Yeah, and that's rare to get. Like, I mean, over the years you've grown, and I'm sure you've figured out the dynamics of working with people, working with systems, and then building and growing this culture. But to truly be able to say that and to truly have team members who are committed to making that team a mission work, I mean, that's a definite sign that you've done something and built something successful. So Jason and Sab, we have individual realtors that listen and watch to this. We have, those that are right now, perhaps they're trying to build a team and struggling with that. And as you both know, I mean, the real estate market, the way it is, and as much as we can't really control, things that are happening in this world around us, it is a lot more challenging than it has been maybe compared to 3, 5 years ago. But at the same time, over the course of your 20 years in the business, you've seen ups and downs, right? So for anybody looking to start a team today, or for somebody who's struggling with their team, we'll start with Jason and we'll go to Sab after. What would be one piece of advice you would give to that agent to help them out?
I think, you need to be looking at building a team for the right reasons. You're not doing it to escape work. And I think that's a big misconception. I would get stopped at award events and different things and have individual agents come out to me and go, your team is so great. I want to get to where you are. I want to have a team and not work. Frankly, I work more now, or at least as much as I did in 2007. It's just different. You're changing, you're trading tasks, let's say daily tasks, for responsibility.
That's right.
Right. So it's not any less work. So I think number one, they need to be going into this for the right reasons. I think that they need to be documenting stuff that they're not doing well at the moment that they need help with. And you're basically, your first hire, if you're going to build a team, should be buying you back some time to work on the business and not be stuck in it all the time.
That's right. Which is a key distinction, right? I mean, a lot of realtors that are looking to build a team, as you said it, Jason, best. I mean, they look at it as, okay, this is a turnkey way for me to just, press the cruise control button and just sit and let everybody else do the work. But without the understanding, as you mentioned earlier in our conversation, that you've now taken on a lot more responsibility and now you're responsible for that person's well-being, right? So that's a great piece of advice. Sab, how about you? What's one advice that you'd give to aspiring team leaders?
I think, honestly, one of the most important things, and we talked about it earlier, is the hiring. You have to hire smart. And I've seen it, Jason and I have been in this building for a long time. We've seen so many teams come and go. And that's what we typically see is people will just have a conversation with someone, okay, you're on my team. And then, so as opposed to sitting down, really taking their time and going through that process and making sure that you're hiring the right people. There's nothing worse than hiring someone for, leads or whatever you're doing that for, but not paying attention to, are they going to fit properly? Do I have enough work for them? It's just, that's absolutely so important. And I think a lot of people just think, I just need to add people to my team to make it look like I've got X amount of people, when really it's, you got to make sure that you're hiring for the right reasons and that you're hiring the right people. To me, that's what I've always seen is,
right.
People coming and cycling and going and them not understanding what the job is. I don't know how many times I've heard, well, I went into this a team and I had to jump on the phone and do lead generation for 3 hours a day. And that's not what they want to do. Right. And let's be clear about that, is a lot of people think that, joining a team is just about going and getting leads. And if that's what you think, you're joining a team for the wrong reasons. It's for this support. It's for, hey, if I'm going away on vacation, we have one realtor who's off every July and she just goes, she turns her phone off and she knows that everything is being covered for her. Right. So there's a lot of different reasons why you want to do it, but you want to do it for the right reasons and not just, hey, my hands are out and I'm just waiting for the next lead. Right.
Right, expectations. And that's sort of the reason too why we see teams that struggle, because let's say they overscaled and they grew to a certain point, but now it's not sustainable. And they're all wondering, whether it's a lead generation problem or it's just a lack of, what is the responsibility for everybody to bring value to the team? And then that's where they struggle. So speaking of which, I'm pretty sure your almost 20-year journey did not go without any mistakes or any things that you've learned. We'll start with Sab and then go to Jason for this one. If you could identify one mistake that any team leader could learn from, that you're willing to share, what one mistake maybe happened during this journey and how would you have fixed it? Or how did you fix it?
Honestly, I would say, I don't want to hammer that again. So I would say the hiring thing, definitely the number one. We've made our mistakes in the beginning. We cleaned that up. But I think really ensuring that absolutely everything is documented from a process perspective is making sure that that's done. I think database is number one. Anyone that doesn't have a database, you have to have a database and spend time on building out those action plans and because really, I don't want to say that your business will go on autopilot, because that's not the case, but that makes everything a lot easier, both from a communication perspective and from everyone in the team understanding what's happening with that client. So if I had to go back, is making sure, again, we learn as we go. And as Jason said, we're always constantly evolving and changing things, but just making sure that stuff is locked tight right from the beginning.
Right. I think which is one of the reasons why your team has scaled and grown, is because you had Like you learn from these mistakes, obviously early on, and maybe not necessarily mistake is the right word, but just more of a learning experience in terms of what to do versus what not to do, and then documenting the experience, documenting the processes. Jason, identify a mistake that maybe you encountered, and what did you learn from it, and how did you change course?
Yeah, I'd say two things. Previous team, I mentioned we had a partner and we grew. The growth was too quick. We weren't able to support it properly. We weren't bringing people in, the right people in. And so I think that was definitely an issue. So we definitely have a different model now from a growth perspective, which I can explain later. And really the other one too is you need to be willing to be flexible. We've had previous models, our own internal models, where we would say, this is what we expect from a lead gen standpoint. This is what we want everyone doing. And what we've recognized over the years now is that that's not going to work for everybody. And if you really want your lead gen systems to work for your team and you really want them out there generating business, you need to help design models specifically for those individuals based on disc, based on personality, based on everything to ensure their success. And years ago, we were very rigid on that. And we saw how that turned out. We've had much more success moving in this direction now. If somebody's not good at open houses and that's my model, I need to help them find something else because it's not going to work.
Right. But not necessarily being per se accommodating in the sense of, you've identified a weakness or something that they can't do, but rather putting them in the right position for what they are able to do and what their strengths are. Right.
If you're hiring a talented person, they're a talented person and you just need to recognize what their strengths are and help push them in that direction.
Yeah, that makes sense. Now, this conversation was very interesting in the sense that it seems almost practical, right? Like, so somebody listening and watching to this could almost take this entire blueprint and just replicate it. And yet there's a lot of challenges in terms of people who are, realtors who are starting to build a team or trying to build a team. And, in a sense, I've identified a couple of things that Jason and Sab have shared with us. The systems and being consistent with documenting processes and making sure all of these experiences are consistent is one key element. Making sure that the right people are being hired, not just for the sake of bringing people in and saying, hey, I've got a big team and this is who I am, but making sure they fit in, because at the end of the day, you're responsible for the team members that you bring in, for their livelihood, for the impact they make on clients. And as long as you're keeping them happy, of course, they're going to keep your team clients happy, right? So, before we finish off with the conversation, I keep saying it because 2007, 2026, 2027, the 20th year anniversary of Jason, you starting, and then of Pilon Group, of course, growing. What is the vision and the future? Like, where are you going with this? Is the Pilon Group going to be around, for how much longer? Or, when it comes time for, the business grows, is there, any plans of transition, or are you planning to keep it steady? Like, what's sort of the idea that you have and what you're seeing for your future?
Sure. Yeah. Look, I enjoy what I do. I'm still young enough, so I'm not planning on doing anything different in the near future. Really enjoy what I do, really enjoy who I work with, really enjoy working with clients. So I would say for us, really the plans are focused growth, not, that explosive growth that we do see with some groups. We're slow to hire, quick to fire, diving in deeper into our systems, not making them more complex, but making them more streamlined, and just to continue adapting technology wise, system wise. And Johnder, this, but our industry, and much like most industries, is changing like weekly. And really, so it's just keeping pace with all of that and making sure that we're constantly delivering the best product that we can.
Staying relevant and evolving, right? And Sab, how about you?
Yeah, I guess I got to kind of mimic what Jason's saying. I think the explosive growth is probably the big one. Over the last couple of years, honestly, we've hired 2 people. So it's about, okay, we need to continue to grow and we want to do that, but we want to do it when it's right. I think going back, we've learned a lot over this transition. And, one of them was, you can't just set goals for individual realtors, and everybody is different. So we've got people that are interested in doing, maybe 20 deals, and we have some that want to do 40 deals. So again, our job is to make sure that we're supporting them as best as we possibly can while still being able to grow a little bit. So our last hire was someone for a social media coordinator. A good story is the last realtor that we hired was 2 years ago, Mark. He came in and he's the first person ever in his first year on our team that was our top producer.
Wow.
He came in, he listened to everything that we did, and he really knocked it out of the park. So long story short, we're not just going to hire people and just expect to grow. It's going to be, okay, you know what? We have this gap here. we need to be able to add something in and make sure that everyone is still doing that business that they want to do.
That's amazing. So thank you both for the time that you spent with this conversation here on Real Estate Strategies with Remax Hallmark. I definitely appreciate the impact that you make, not only here at Remax Hallmark, but definitely within the real estate industry within Ottawa. And of course, definitely last but not least, I do want to mention that, of course, because you're doing business in Ottawa and we have an audience here of anywhere from North America to worldwide, how do they reach out with you? How do they connect with you as far as, realtors wanting to send referrals of their clients working in Ottawa, or maybe, potential talent that may want to join your team? Jason, how do they reach out to the Pilon Group?
Pilongroup.com is the easiest way for you to connect with us on all those fronts.
All right. So thank you so much, Jason and Sab. Thank you for sharing all of your insight with us. Those of you following along, watching this, make sure you like, subscribe, comment, all that sort of stuff. I'll be hearing from our podcast producer after this. Okay. Thank you so much, Jason and Sab. And thank you for all of you who are listening and watching to Real Estate Strategies with Remax Hallmark.
Thank you, Johnder.